She's a bastard. My mother said it loudly, inside a packed courtroom, while my 6-year-old daughter sat only 10 feet away, coloring quietly beside me. And in that exact second, every person in the room froze. Even the judge looked stunned. But my mother didn't care, because humiliation was the point. My name is Vanessa Carter, and the woman who spent my entire childhood controlling me finally crossed a line so cruel it destroyed her own life in the process. The worst part, she thought she was winning. The hearing started at 9 a.m. sharp inside Family Court, downtown Chicago. Cold room, gray walls, cheap fluorescent lights humming overhead. The kind of place where people pretend emotions don't exist while entire families collapse in public. I sat quietly beside my attorney, holding my daughter Lily's tiny hand. She wore a yellow sweater with little white stars on it, completely unaware her grandmother was about to try destroying us both. "Mommy," she whispered softly, "are we in trouble?" That question almost broke me instantly, because children always sense tension before adults realize how visible it becomes. "No, baby," I whispered gently. "You didn't do anything wrong." But honestly, I wasn't sure how ugly things would get anymore, because my mother, Diane Carter, had already spent months turning this custody hearing into personal warfare. Not because she cared about Lily, because she hated me. And she always had, especially after I got pregnant at 21. The father, Marcus Hill, died in a motorcycle accident 3 months before Lily was born. And somehow, my mother blamed me for that too. According to her, I embarrassed the family, ruined my future, destroyed our reputation. Never mind the fact, Marcus, and I planned to marry. Never mind that I lost the person I loved most while carrying our daughter alone. To my mother, none of that mattered. All she saw was public shame. And for 6 years, she punished me for it constantly. Subtle comments at first, passive-aggressive insults, criticism disguised as concern. "You'd have an easier life if you made smarter decisions." "Children deserve stable homes." "People judge single mothers differently." Everything always carefully phrased, carefully cruel. But after my father died 8 months earlier, she became worse, much worse, because Dad had always balanced her out slightly. Without him, there was nobody left stopping her. And eventually, she decided Lily belonged with her instead of me. That's what today's hearing was really about. My mother petitioned for partial guardianship, claiming I was financially unstable and emotionally unfit. All lies, but dangerous lies, especially in family court. And honestly, part of me believed she'd eventually back down, because no grandmother would truly try taking a child from her mother out of spite. Right? I was wrong. Very wrong. The hearing started calmly enough. Her attorney presented fake concern beautifully. "Ms. Carter only wishes to provide stability for her granddaughter." Stability. Funny how manipulative people always weaponize caring language. My attorney calmly dismantled most of their arguments quickly. Stable employment. I had it. Clean records, documented. Safe home, verified. Everything my mother claimed collapsed under evidence almost immediately. And slowly, I noticed her getting angry, not nervous, angry, because manipulative people don't handle losing quietly, especially when control slips publicly. Then came the moment that changed everything. The judge asked directly, "Mrs. Carter, why exactly do you believe your daughter is unfit to parent?" And suddenly, my mother snapped completely. She raised that child without a husband. She spat bitterly. She was born from irresponsibility. The courtroom tightened instantly. The judge's expression hardened immediately. But my mother kept going. "She's a bastard," she said loudly. And everyone knows children raised like that struggle. Silence. Pure, horrifying silence. My daughter looked up slowly from her coloring book, confused, not understanding the word, but understanding the cruelty. And honestly, that moment changed something permanently inside me, because insulting me was one thing. Humiliating a 6-year-old child publicly, that was unforgivable. "Mrs. Carter," the judge warned sharply. But my mother wasn't finished. She trapped that boy before he died. She continued viciously. She destroyed her own future and expects sympathy for it. I stared at her, completely stunned, because suddenly I realized this wasn't about custody anymore. This was revenge. Years of resentment finally exploding publicly. And the worst part, my mother looked proud saying it, like humiliation itself satisfied her somehow. That's when my attorney quietly leaned toward me and whispered 5 words that changed everything. "We can destroy her now." I looked at him sharply, because suddenly he looked calm, confident, almost prepared. And then he slid a folder slowly across the table. A folder I had never seen before. Inside, evidence connected to my father, my mother, and a secret hidden for 32 years. A secret so devastating, it would completely destroy the image she spent her entire life protecting. Because my mother had spent years calling my daughter illegitimate while hiding the truth about her own marriage. My hands shook opening the folder. Inside were old photographs, financial records, letters, DNA documents. And suddenly, my entire understanding of my family tilted sideways. "What is this?" I whispered. My attorney, Richard Sloan, leaned closer quietly. "Your father hired a private investigator before he died." I froze instantly. "What?" Richard nodded carefully. "He discovered something about your mother years ago. He documented everything." My stomach tightened slowly, because my father never acted impulsively. If he investigated something quietly, it meant he already suspected betrayal. And betrayal inside our family was nothing new. Growing up, my mother controlled everything. Money, schedules, appearances, emotions, especially appearances. Public image mattered to her more than relationships ever did. Perfect family photos, perfect holidays, perfect church attendance. Everything polished carefully. And now, sitting inside family court while she publicly humiliated my daughter, I suddenly realized something terrifying. People obsessed with perfection usually hide ugly truths themselves. Richard carefully pulled out one specific document. DNA results. My eyes narrowed immediately. At first, I thought they were mine, or Lily's. Then I saw the names. My father, my older brother Adam. Probability of paternity, 0%. I stopped breathing. What? My attorney's voice stayed calm. Your father discovered 2 years before his death that Adam wasn't biologically his. The room around me suddenly felt distant, unreal, because Adam was my mother's favorite child. Always. The golden son, the successful one, the protected one. And suddenly, everything made horrifying sense. But the deeper we went into my mother's lies, the uglier her hypocrisy became. The hearing paused temporarily after my mother's outburst. But inside that courtroom, everything had already changed. Because while she attacked my daughter's legitimacy publicly, evidence quietly proved she spent decades hiding infidelity herself. The hypocrisy was monstrous. And honestly, part of me still struggled processing it. My father knew for years, yet somehow stayed silent. Richard explained everything carefully while court officers reorganized paperwork nearby. My father discovered the affair after finding hidden financial transfers connected to a man named Victor Hale, old family friend, frequent visitor, and secretly Adam's biological father. The affair lasted almost 5 years. 5 years my mother spent pretending perfection publicly while betraying her marriage privately. And suddenly, all her cruelty toward me looked different. Projection. Pure projection. Because manipulative people often attack others for the very shame they hide themselves, especially mothers obsessed with appearances. Then Richard showed me something worse. A handwritten letter from my father, addressed directly to me. And reading it almost shattered me emotionally, because suddenly I understood why Dad protected me differently growing up. He knew what it felt like living beside my mother's judgment every day. But my mother still had no idea the evidence was about to enter the courtroom officially. When the hearing resumed, my mother looked confident again. That was her mistake, because manipulative people mistake temporary silence for victory constantly. Richard stood calmly, adjusted his glasses, then requested permission to submit newly discovered evidence relevant to character evaluation. Immediately, my mother's attorney looked nervous, very nervous. The judge approved the request. And then, everything exploded. DNA records, financial evidence, private investigator reports, photographs, timeline analysis. One piece after another entered official record. The courtroom changed completely. Whispers spread instantly. People stared openly now. My mother's face slowly lost color, while Richard calmly dismantled the image she spent decades building. Mrs. Carter has repeatedly attacked my client's morality and family structure, he said clearly, while concealing her own documented extramarital relationship resulting in the birth of another child. Silence. Pure, devastating silence. My mother looked horrified, not guilty, exposed. And honestly, watching that happen felt surreal, because for the first time in my entire life, her control vanished publicly. But the final evidence destroyed her reputation permanently. I didn't know the recording existed. Neither did my mother. That's why what happened Next, completely shattered her. Richard calmly requested permission to play an audio file recovered from my father's personal records. The courtroom approved. Then suddenly, Dad's voice filled the room. Weak, tired, but heartbreakingly calm. If Vanessa ever hears this, he began slowly. I want her to understand something. My throat tightened instantly because hearing his voice again after 8 months felt unbearable. I stayed quiet for years because I believed protecting the family mattered more than exposing the truth. The courtroom stayed completely silent, but Diane mistakes silence for innocence. My mother physically stiffened. And then came the sentence that destroyed her completely. She spent years punishing Vanessa for becoming a single mother, while hiding the fact she betrayed her own marriage first. My mother started crying immediately. Real panic now, not performance. Fear. Because the image she spent decades protecting collapsed publicly in minutes. And honestly, part of me didn't feel satisfaction, just clarity, because finally, everyone saw her the way I always had. But my final statement in court changed the entire case permanently. The judge remained silent for almost 30 seconds after the recording ended. Nobody moved. Nobody whispered. Even the courtroom air felt heavy suddenly. Then finally, the judge looked directly at my mother. "Mrs. Carter," she said coldly, "using this court to weaponize personal shame against a child is deeply inappropriate." My mother stared downward silently. No dramatic response left. No manipulation. No control. Because truth strips performance away, eventually, especially public truth. Then the judge turned toward me. "Miss Carter, your daughter appears loved, stable, and emotionally secure." I nearly cried instantly, not because I won, because for months, my mother made me question myself constantly. That's what manipulators do best. They exhaust your confidence until survival itself feels selfish. The guardianship request was dismissed completely. But honestly, the legal victory wasn't the most important part. It was what happened afterward. Because once the courtroom emptied, people stopped seeing my mother the same way forever. Family members avoided her. Church friends whispered. Neighbors suddenly remembered years of cruelty they ignored before. And for the first time in her life, image couldn't save her anymore. A week later, Adam called me privately, completely shattered emotionally, because he learned the truth about his biological father the exact same day the entire courtroom did. And suddenly, I realized something painful. My mother didn't just destroy relationships. She poisoned generations through lies, shame, control, manipulation, all while pretending morality publicly. But eventually, people like that collapse under the weight of their own hypocrisy. Today, Lily is 8 years old, happy, loud, confident, and she barely remembers the courtroom anymore, which honestly feels like a miracle, because children should never inherit the bitterness adults create. As for my mother, we don't speak, not out of revenge, out of peace, because some people confuse access with entitlement, and being family does not give someone permission to wound your child repeatedly. especially not mine. The strangest part, the word my mother used to shame Lily publicly ended up exposing her own hidden life instead. Because people obsessed with judging others usually fear one thing most: exposure. And eventually, the truth always arrives. Even in court, some people spend years pretending morality matters to them, while secretly living behind lies they pray nobody discovers. But real character isn't measured by appearances, marriage titles, or public reputation. It's measured by how you treat people when you believe you hold power over them, especially children, especially family. And sometimes, the cruelest people accidentally destroy themselves the moment they decide to humiliate someone publicly, because truth has a dangerous habit. It waits patiently, then arrives all at once.